Welcome to the OddsBreakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
All right. Welcome to podcast 73 of 2024, my friends. I hope you all are doing well. We are still in San Diego, so really having a good time. We got some sun yesterday. The first 2 days weren't sunny, but we were able to check out the beach yesterday, which was awesome. And had a good time. Had some friends stop by as well, so that was sweet. But today, we're going to make the podcast short and sweet for you because I don't have a ton of time. I'm trying to do this wee hours in the morning before the kids wake up. So interesting news with UNLV. Matthew Saluka is transferring and redshirting, and I guess he was promised some stuff that UNLV never gave him, and that's the whole NIL deal that you're going to start seeing with college football. NIL has changed some things, but also teams can be dishonest. There's no real great agency representing either side. And so this line dropped from +3 to +1, to -1. I think this is going to go to -3. I grabbed it. I think it should be -3 for Fresno State because Mikey Keene is a much more experienced quarterback than the backups. Now, they do have a decent backup, D'Angelo Irvin, but he's only had one pass attempt, so it's still a big drop, and it just kind of happened on Wednesday, Tuesday night, Wednesday here, meaning he's probably hasn't gotten all this number one practice reps. So I'm very interested in seeing how this all develops and where this line goes. I grabbed +1 with Fresno State right away. It's not going to be an official play or anything for this show, but just wanted to start there and explain the news. Now, Wisconsin is going to play USC. I'm going to jump right to that one just because I'm ready for that one. And I'm a Badger fan. This is a 16-point spread. It's very big for a USC team. Yet still Lincoln Riley and Wisconsin still can't move the ball on offense. Now they are stuck with their backup Braden Locke. Metrically, you would think to yourself, Wisconsin should just pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball. But their rushing success rate, like 16th, and they played 2 tomato cans, so that might not be real. And USC's defensive rushing success rate, where USC's had some very tough games, they are ranked 5th in strength schedule, ranks 34th. So if USC stops the Badgers' run, this thing can get completely out of hand, And USC is playing well. They just lost to Michigan, which that was a game they shouldn't have lost. So it's kind of a get back right spot for USC, especially at home. It's funny. I was considering driving up to this game since I'm in San Diego. We're supposed to leave on Saturday, but I decided not to. Why would I go see my Badgers get donkey stomped by USC? It doesn't sound that fun to me. So we're just gonna let them play there, and hopefully they can run the football and see if they can win. Let's go to some of these earlier games here. And when I say earlier, I mean Virginia Tech versus Miami is playing on Friday. Now, this game is was a much different spread in the game of the year look. It was more like Miami -7, then -7.5, and now it's all the way up to -19.5. Well, Virginia Tech has looked like absolute dog crap themselves. They can't really run the ball well. They can't throw the ball well. Miami, very powerful so far in their 4-0 debut. They just took care of South Florida like they weren't even nothing, and that was a spot that people were looking to back South Florida last week. If you look at the points scored against Miami, it's not much. The Gators scored 17 only because that was garbage time. Ball State and Florida A&M, total of 9 points between them. South Florida 15, and South Florida's got a pretty good offense. I am not getting in the way of this Miami train, and they're looking very good in poise so far for college football. Rutgers is a 2.5-point favorite against Washington. Can you believe that Rutgers is a favorite? I mean, I was high on Rutgers, but their season win total over just based on their schedule. But I mean, laying points with Rutgers sounds like a very scary thing. I have this as Rutgers -2, though. I mean, I downgrade Washington all the way down to where Rutgers should be. That's because Washington has not been Washington, and they have a good coach over there, obviously with Jed Fish. But when's it going to click? You remember the Huskies? Or I'm sorry, the Arizona Wildcats last year took a couple games for them to click. So no lean for me in that game at all either. Big game, Kentucky at Mississippi. That's a huge game. Mississippi is -17 in the hook. 17 in the hook, just as respect for Ole Miss's offense, and Jackson Dart's doing great. He's a Heisman contender. But finally, this team is actually going to be tested a little bit because their strength of schedule ranks 162nd. They haven't played anybody yet. Anybody. At least Kentucky played Georgia, at home. Kentucky has an actual schedule, and their numbers are pretty bad because some of the teams that play, they can't throw the ball well at all, but they certainly can run the ball, ranking 9th in success rate. Of course, Ole Miss ranks number 2 in defensive success rate. So this is kind of the game that's going to tell you which side is for real. Which team is for real in the SEC, because a lot of people are just scratching their heads between Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Those are the 4 teams in the SEC that has anybody really worried. Is the real contenders. LSU is kind of out of it. LSU hasn't even covered a spread yet. They're 0-4 against the spread. But I mean, the strength of schedule is just such a difference here. It's hard to come up with a real number. I'll tell you what my power number is real quick for this game. And it is 19.5. I have Ole Miss favored by 19.5. So I am literally 2 points more than the spread. I'll lean to the Ole Miss here. I'll lean to Ole Miss at -17.5. Oklahoma State versus Kansas State's an interesting game. Kansas State's laying about 4.5. My number is -5, so I'm right on the number. Situationally, I think that Kansas State is in a much better spot and a bounce back spot after all those turnovers against BYU. Oklahoma State did lose against Utah, but that was at home and very defeating. You wonder what version of Oklahoma State's going to show up in this game. I'm too close to the number to mess with this one. Kansas State's quarterback is a great running quarterback. He should be able to get a bunch of yards just by himself if he doesn't throw any stupid picks. The total's pretty high at 55.5, so it's really up to Kansas State's defense if this total is going to go under or not. Another Big 12 game, BYU versus Baylor. Now, Baylor's -3, -3.5. I'm going to probably be on this one when I get a chance here. This is a massive letdown spot for BYU. And if you watch that game, that BYU got outgained. It was all the turnovers and the special teams that completely did it for BYU. Big night game in Provo. It's different now. They are in a much different spot, in a letdown spot. They're probably going to come in thinking they're big and bad. And then Baylor, in a pretty desperate spot after blowing that game last week, embarrassed last week against Deion Sanders. They should have won that game and then let the Hail Mary go. That was embarrassing for Baylor. And this is at 3 in some books right now. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm going to see if more public money drives this down to 3, 2.5. So no play on that one. I am going to give you a couple plays, though. Cincinnati's going to be playing Texas Tech. Texas Tech -2.5 total. It's 59.5. I have to give Cincinnati some credit here at 3-1. They've shown good defense, and they seem to take care of the ball on offense. But in saying that, I'm still low on this Cincinnati Bearcats team. Beating Miami, Ohio, Houston, and Towson isn't exactly a reason to think that they're good. Cincinnati allowed over 6 yards per play so far against bad teams in the league. Texas Tech also allows over 6 yards per play on defense, but at least they played 2 decent power teams, So that's really what it is. They played 2 decent power teams. They played ASU, that was big, in Washington State. Quarterback Baron Morton's a solid 63% completion, 12 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. I haven't rated higher than Brendan Sorsby. This is a spot where Cincinnati blows out a terrible Houston team, blows them out, shuts them out. Now they're going to Texas Tech, where Texas Tech's playing well at home. Texas Tech ranks 26th in explosive plays. This is where I think they can get Cincinnati explosive plays, and Cincinnati has not been tested on defense. This is short spread. Lay the points. Lay the 2.5 with Texas Tech for 2 stars. Next game I'm going to give you here is Louisville versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame's -6, totals 48.5. This can be one of the best games of the weekend. I do not understand why this spread got so high. Notre Dame has shown weakness this year in clutch situations, as we have seen versus Northern Illinois. We see them beat Texas A&M. That was good, and obviously they donkey stomped Purdue a week ago or so. But is that just more about Purdue and their get up spot? Probably. They're back to earth. They didn't do all that good last week because they beat someone 28-3, some tomato can too. I think it was Miami, Ohio. Louisville ranks 11th in offensive success rate. Notre Dame ranks 74th in offensive success rate. Louisville ranks 16th in defensive success rate. Notre Dame ranks 26th. It's clear the Irish, like I said, have a harder strength of schedule. I always say that. I'm not sure if I said it in this game, but I always say that. Strength schedule early in the year, that's how you should handicap. But it's still close enough where Louisville looks almost equal. And if you remember, Louisville took care of this team last year. They also just beat a very good rushing team in Georgia Tech last week. Okay, kind of holding Georgia Tech. That's why I have a lot more respect for Louisville. I think this should be like a 3.5 point spread for Notre Dame, not a 6 point spread. Both these coaches are familiar with each other. And the Cardinals won by 13 points last year. Louisville is 4-0 against the spread over the last 4 games against the Irish. So they have the Irish's number. I'm going to take 6 points here. Take the 6 with Louisville. Same amount, 2 stars as the other play. We're going to take 6 points. I think that's one of the better plays for the weekend as well. I think it's a very close game. All right, next we have, and do we talk about the big daddy of them all, Georgia versus Bama? Why not? That's what people want to hear. This is an interesting spread because, I think the game of the year look ahead was pretty close to what it is right now. You're looking at Georgia -2.5 in most books on a road, yet Alabama has always had their number, it seems. Alabama's got Georgia's number. Both have had some pretty solid schedules as Georgia played Clemson and Kentucky. Bama played a Wisconsin team that is not even judgeable almost. This is a terrible Wisconsin offense that just gave them a ball a couple times. Bama's turnovers is only at 0. Their turnover margin, Georgia's at 3. So Jalen Milroe has to take care of the ball. The total of this game is 48. I think the total should be 51, just because Bama spaces this game out a little bit. They play faster, faster than normal offense. They're at 72nd on tempo, but that's because they've blown away some teams. I think it's going to be higher with this coach here, with Kalen DeBoer, and their offense should be quite efficient. Now, Georgia's got a great offense as well, but I don't think their defense is as good as people think this year. I think that's definitely taken a step back with all that Georgia has lost. So, you can have the side. I think either team very live to win this game. And between the threes, it's not something I want to get invested in. If Bama becomes a 3-point dog, yeah, I'll play Bama, sure. But right now, I would only look to the over. I think Bama can put up the points, and they've taken the foot off the gas a few times this year. I know Bama's had their gas for South Florida, but they just have too many good athletes there on offense. Bama's defense is very susceptible too. Lean over. I'm not going to take it at 48 yet. Maybe I get a 47.5 or 47. How about that? Maybe some sharp money comes in on the under. That would help me out. And I would go then with the over myself. Let's see if there's another game or two to talk about before we move on to the NFL. Maryland, Indiana is interesting. Indiana now a favorite, -7 in the Big Ten. Yeah, I need to see a little bit more of Indiana as a favorite. Obviously, they only need 2 more wins to hit our win total bet. Indiana, a wonderful 4-0. Texas State for Sam Houston State's interesting. Sam Houston State's been doing really well. Texas State is on an extra week of rest, and coming off the Arizona State lost. They're chopping at the bit to play. I'm not gonna mess with this game. I do have it around 8.5 myself, so not too interested in that game. Oklahoma versus Auburn, I have a premium play on, so I'll be skipping that. You have UTSA versus East Carolina is interesting. East Carolina is -4. East Carolina couldn't score but 19 points against that App State defense. That's kind of worrisome to me. App State, as they showed last week, holy cow, did they get donkey stomped last week? And they played not even that good of a team, you know. I laid the 7 with App State against South Alabama, and holy cow, they got boat raced completely out of the whole game itself. So that was certainly worrisome. Clemson's kind of in a semi-letdown spot, I guess. They destroyed NC State, and they got Florida State on deck, or sandwich spot, and they got Stanford there. I can only lean to Stanford here at 22 points. Stanford's getting 22 points at Clemson. This could get really uglied up. Yet Clemson is kind of been on fire lately as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to get involved in that game either. Ohio State, Michigan State. Oh, this is going to be a fun game. You know, this can be some very interesting coaching here. And you know what? I'll tell you what I did. I took Michigan State plus 25. It's down to 24 right now. It's kind of going down to 23.5. But I'll make this a play at 24 as well for you guys for your third play. Michigan State has got some much better coaching now. They should have won last week at Boston College, and there was a misleading final score in that. Ohio State had a pretty easy against Marshall, and they won just based on their athletes. But their strength schedule is only 168th. You know, Ohio State hasn't played anybody yet. Anybody, you know. And you can look at all the stats you want, and I have them as the third best team in the nation. Don't get me wrong, but 24 points. That's just a lot of points here on the road in the Big Ten against a well-coached team. A lot of times you bet coaches over players. You know, look at what the Packers, look at what they did with Malik Willis. You know, there's a lot of situations where you can just see that. And I think Michigan State can possibly run this ball a little bit and, kind of slow the game down here at home, drag it out a little bit, force Will Howard in some tough situations is interesting. You know, Will Howard, they're only +1 in the turnover margin. So Ohio State can definitely turn over the ball. And I've seen it happen. They let Marshall in that game right in the beginning last week. I think this is too many points here. My numbers do not have it at this. It has more Ohio State at 21.5. I have Ohio State favored by 21.5 at Michigan State. I'm going to take 24 points based on the good coach there, Jed Fish. I think that Michigan State can cover this game, so we'll also do that for 2 stars. Moving into the NFL. Okay, so this Dallas Cowboy game is just a spot where they really really need to get up. Dallas is 5.5 to 6-point favorite, depending on what book you're looking at, against the Giants. The number I got is much better than what it is right now, laying it with Dallas. But Dallas is a little bit banged up on the injury, but so are the Giants. You know, it's the Giants beat the Browns last week, and that was just more based on the Browns being terrible. I think there's a misleading final score there. Possibly. Nope, they're outgained by the Giants, but the Browns are an absolute mess. You know, we'll get to that game. Yeah, the Cowboys probably should be laying more points than 6 in this situation. I think I have the Cowboys more by 7 or 8 points. Now, the Cowboys can't get their run game going really well. That's my biggest worry. But I think if they're going to get it going, the Giants would be a good team to do it against. I didn't upgrade the Giants much. I've been downgraded the Cowboys a lot because look who they played, Baltimore. See, this is what Dak Prescott does. He beats the crap out of the bad teams, and he loses when he steps up against good teams. That's kind of been Dak his whole career, and that's why you see him losing the playoffs a lot. It's like get over the hump by beating some good teams for once. But this is not the good team situation at all. This is a bad team situation. So, Bears Rams. Bears are -3, total 41. Now, this is a big spot for the Bears as the Rams are in a letdown spot after beating San Fran. But seriously, all the injuries on the Rams, their two best receivers are down. They can still throw to Robinson. They can still throw to Tutu Atwell. The Bears could still choke this game away. Laying points with a Caleb Williams-led team when their offense is just absolutely terrible right now because Shane Waldron just doesn't have these guys in sync. I don't know if we'll ever have them in sync. That's something I really want to do is lay points with the Bears at -3. Spot or no spot, it is ugly right now. And I just think the Bears win. I think I'm going to win the game, but Jesus, man, terrible spot or terrible spread for Bears fans. If you want to lay those points, that's tough. You have a much better coaching advantage, obviously, with the Rams. Saints Falcons. So the Falcons are about -1, -1.5. The total is 42.5. The Saints kind of showed who they really were last week against the Eagles. They still should have won that game. Did a lot of things right, but they got massively outgained by the Eagles as well. So you wonder about what's real and what's not. The Saints winning their first two games against great competition. I suppose that's pretty real. They did take care of business against Dallas. And I shouldn't say good competition because they played Carolina the first game, so my bad. But I think that was a little bit more about Dallas being incompetent, and just kind of getting punched in the mouth there. So this Dallas team's very strange too. They whipped on Cleveland and 0-1 So it's like you can't give them a ton of credit for beating Dallas, and then at home against Philly. Atlanta. Everyone picked Atlanta to win the division. I think Atlanta's the slightly better team still. I'm taking the money line. -123, -120. You can find it. I like the Falcons on the money line for sure in this situation, just because I think they can run the ball against the Saints with Bijan Robinson. I think Kirk Cousins is finding his receivers now. They should have beat the Chiefs last week. That was very, very big pass interference not called in the end zone. So I like the Saints in this game. We'll take them on the money line at -120. Next game, we have Vikings-Packers. This is all about Jordan Love. Here's the problem. It's a weird spot for the Packers, and I do have the Vikings as for real now, by the way. I came around on them after 3 games. You got to start doing that. Otherwise, you're just going to be left in the dust. I have this. Well, if Jordan Love's playing, they should be favored by 3 points. And if Jordan Love's not playing, the Vikings should be favored by 2.5 to 3 points. But at the same time, let's say Love comes back. It's a weird spot for him because Love's only game he lost, and Malik Willis comes in and wins 2 games. It's just kind of psychologically weird for Jordan Love to come back in here, and it's a division game. Packers could just take care of business, and I thought Minnesota's letdown would be last week, and I lost on that. They destroyed the Texans. When's their letdown coming? Is it coming? Is this team just still feeling underappreciated? Why is Sam Darnold so hot right now? This could be the spot where they lose against the Packers. I'll lean Packers, but really not excited to be playing that right now. Steelers Colts, and the Steelers defense is one of the best in the league here. Colts are literally a 2-point home dog here, very similar to the Bears. And then Justin Fields is playing very sound football. If you remember what I said about Justin Fields all last year, all summer long, I said, we still don't know if he's a good quarterback. We just can't pay him now because he's had such bad coaching. He could turn out. We said that. We always say that he can turn out because whenever you have Bears coaches, you have no idea how good the player actually really is. It's because the coaching is so terrible. Now he's at the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, and some competent staff, not putting him in bad situations. He's doing pretty good. He's not doing great, exactly ripping it up. Let's face it, they're winning on total defense, but that's what the whole variance thing with Anthony Richardson comes in. Is Richardson going to be good or bad? Richardson turned over the ball. He tries to run the ball a lot too. I think this is a sloppy, messy situation. The Steelers feeling a little bit too good about being 3-0. That's another thing that you look at. When a team is like 3-0, feeling a little good. I mean, the Vikings are in that situation, and no one expected them to be 3-0. Yeah, that's always a scary proposition. Passing on that game. Let's go to the Broncos versus the Jets. Jets laying -7.5. This is gonna be part of my teaser leg. Wait, I took it at 7. It's at 7.5. The Broncos were in a big spot last week, and they played a little bit out of their minds against Tampa Bay. But this Denver team is still not so good, in my opinion. Now, their offensive EPA is in the actually middle. They move the ball okay with Sean Payton there. Sorry, they're not in the middle. They're 27th. Their defense is actually more in the middle. Their offensive EPA is 27th, and you're going to have to put up some points against Aaron Rodgers and that defense to play them. Denver hasn't played exactly the best defenses in the league, yet they still look pretty bad. Seattle is probably the best defense they've played. I'm going to pull up the NFL strength of schedule. I'm going to see where that's at for Denver. I don't think it's in the middle. Denver played Seattle, Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay. I thought they'd be a better spot for them at home. Couldn't even score but 6 points, and then they go to Tampa Bay, and they win in a very letdown spot for Tampa Bay. So too many points to lay for the Jets, but definitely a great teaser leg in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers got this team humming. Eagles versus Bucks. I mean, the Bucks plus 2.5 point dogs at home. This is the other end of my refuse to lose teaser. So here he goes. Refuse to lose teaser, which is unfortunately 1 and 2 right now, thanks to the Lions, obviously the week before, and last week it was the Chargers and their quarterback going out. I really knew Herbert was going to play, but he's going to be another question this week. We're going to go with the Buccaneers to plus 8.5 with the Jets to -1.5 for our refuse to lose teaser. So let's move on to Bengals Panthers. Ugly game. Bengals an absolute total mess. Panthers playing pretty well with Andy Dalton. And the Bengals should have never got rid of Joe Mixon. I just feel like he was a bigger part of their offense than people think. Now they're just trying to throw their way out of situations. Just a nasty game. Panthers are still terrible everywhere. And it's just how good is Andy Dalton going to play in the second game? Jaguars, Texans -7. Total is 45. This is getting a little bit too far now. I know Trevor Lawrence has looked terrible. You saw that game last week. It was bad. I mean, the algorithm says Houston should be favored by 8.5 points. And that's even with the numbers from Houston last week. This number is just getting out of hand for a division game. I have Houston -6.25 points. So I'm right in between 6 and 7. God, if this goes to 7.5, I have to play the freaking Jaguars. And I'm not going to be excited about that, but it's just one of those situations where you just can't ignore that number. A situation like that. Commanders, Cardinals. Cardinals -3.5. I had a premium play on this, and I'm kind of sticking with it for now, so I'm not going to talk too much about this game. But the Commanders looking a little bit better on offense than I expected. I still think their defense is very suspect. This is a very high total at 50.5 points. So we'll move on from that one. Patriots versus 49ers. 49ers -10, total 39.5. The 49ers are so hurt and banged up right now. I don't know who's going to play where. We still have to wait on injury news from Kittle. Deebo Samuel, like Juwan Jennings was fantastic last week, but Purdy hasn't exactly been clutch. So that's been the situation with them. Patriots and Browns Raiders. This is another situation where, man, the Raiders hard to bet on team, losing to the Panthers last week, but the Browns are in just absolute injury hell right now, right? I'll pull up some of their stuff. Browns. So, their offensive tackles still not looking good. You have Jake Conklin. Jack Conklin, it was inactive last week. He still could be inactive this week. Wyatt Teller just went out, guard, and then another tackle's questionable. Shoulder injury for James Hudson. Then Jarek Wills just suffered a knee injury, and he's probably out for a while. Just banged up offensive line. Even Njoku might be back, which would help them. Myles Garrett, day to day, he got banged up last game. They're running back Pierre Strong, and let's not forget about some of the guys that they lost already, like Maurice Hurst at defensive tackle, Tony Fields at linebacker, Mohamed Diabate at linebacker, Thornhill at safety. Jeez, I mean, they're crumbling, and then you have this quarterback in Deshaun Watson that has some serious head issues right now. This is a Raiders only spot, although Coach Pierce said he's not sure which quarterback he's going to play, Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. So that's another weird situation with the quarterback, but the Raiders should be able to take care of business if a lot of these injuries come to fruition. So we'll see on that. And same with the Chiefs Chargers. I mean, if Herbert's in, Chargers should be like plus 2.5. It's plus 8.5 at home. That's the whole question. Where is Justin Herbert? Is he going to try to play this game, aggravating a high ankle sprain? Do they just sit him out to try to give him extra rest? I don't know, man. We're just going to have to wait for more practice reports. And unfortunately, I'm recording this on Wednesday morning because that's the only time I could do this pod to get it out for Thursday. Bills, Ravens. Here's the other play I'm going to give you. We're going over on the Bills, Ravens, over 46.5. I took it at a better number. But these are two high-flying offenses here. The Bills' defense showed really well at home, but now the Bills' defense will be going on the road. So we're going to find out what they're really made of. The Bills are number 1 in offensive EPA, which is nice. The Ravens are number 6 in offensive EPA, which makes me look towards the over. And the truth is that the Bills are only 7. You would think the Bills were higher in defensive EPA at 7th. But they're at 7th. They're not exactly top 5 in that right now. Baltimore, their defense looks awful now that they lost McDonald to the Seahawks. 25th in defensive EPA. I see points. The Ravens, man, I am so lucky that I got that -1 last week. The way they're just trying to choke that game away. You can't expect the Ravens to finish well. Very incompetent. I lean the Bills at the plus 2.5. And I think the Bills might end up being a pretty good teaser. I think that's definitely a teasable situation here with the Bills. Titans, Dolphins. This game is absolute garbage here. I don't know what to say about this. Which team wants to suck more? It's just flipping a coin who can suck more. So we're going to just leave them at that and see how these teams react. It's a great spot for the Dolphins, but I mean, it's a good spot for the Titans at 0-3 too. They're desperate. Malik Willis or not Malik Willis, Will Levis's situation is bad for him. He might lose his starting quarterback job. The Dolphins don't know who they're starting. They can go with Tyler Huntley. Huntley's not good. Yeah, this is just ugly. This should be one on the ground, but the Titans are pretty stout against the rushing game. So McDaniel might struggle trying to run the ball. It's just going to be a coaching situation. I think McDaniel's the better coach, so I would lean the Dolphins. And finally, Seahawks, Lions. The Lions got really banged up themselves, lost in their center right now. And when you lose a center, that's a little bit bigger of an injury than the market usually accounts for. And he's week to week, I guess, partially torn pectoral, your chest muscle. That's brutal. I've seen people bench press and tear their chest muscles before, and that's always very ugly. But, you remember they lost Marcus Davenport, the defensive end, Derek Barnes, a linebacker. So they're kind of breaking down a little bit. And then the Seahawks, somewhat incompetent Seahawks team, but, they got some fight in them. They've been playing almost perfect football, in my opinion. Almost perfect football. Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, they're two defensive players. Very interesting. I need to see if they're going to play. Hamstring for Murphy and ribs for Williams. And then they lost George Fant, their offensive tackle. And, they have some other guys questionable. I seriously lean to the Seahawks, though, in this situation. So there you have it. That's just some plays and thoughts for my NFL of this week. And let's move into some sharp money report. There's not a ton of information out yet. I'll go over some sharp movements here for you. Boston College is from 10.5 to 12.5 against Western Kentucky's been a sharp move. Nebraska -7 to -10.5 at Purdue. That was a more of a sharp move. Louisville Notre Dame, that game was open for a long time. This is kind of bounced back and forth and went all the way down to 4.5. Now it's back up to 6 for Notre Dame. Arkansas, Texas A&M is interesting because that was a bigger look ahead number than it is right now. Arkansas is better than we thought they were going to be. Illinois, that's more hovering around even. 71% of the money on Illinois and 71% of the tickets on Illinois. Michigan State from 25 to 24, 38% of the tickets and 74% of the money. So some money on them. SMU, Florida State, from -4.5 for SMU to -5.5, 67% of the tickets, 82% of the money. Arizona versus Utah, -9.5 to -11.5. It went all the way up to -13, 14. Then it's back down a little bit. But 29% of the tickets are on Utah and 94% of the money. Is Cam Rising going to play? I don't know. I'm sick of that drama going on there as well. Sharp totals. A little bit on the over. Washington Rutgers, 42.5 to 44.5, 67% of the tickets, 87% of the money. South Florida Tulane, this went from 55.5 to 64.5, 50% of the tickets on the over, 98% of the money. Holy cow, that thing just went flying. South Florida's defense is pretty bad. You have Oklahoma, Kansas State on the under a little bit. It went from 58.5 to 56, but there's some buyback now. Nebraska, Purdue, under 48.5 to 47.5, took a little bit of money. And we have one more, TCU versus Kansas. This went all the way down from 61 to 59.5, 62% of the money on the under, and 62% of the tickets on the under, 87% of the money. Well, that's all we have for you today, my friends. Hope I'll recap real quick the picks here. We are going to go with Atlanta laying the points here, laying 1.5. Actually, no, I took the money line for that. Atlanta on the money line at the -1 is okay too, but the official will be at pick. For NFL, we're going to go with that over that I gave you with the Ravens against Buffalo over 46.5 for 2 stars. And those were 2 NFL I gave you. I'm actually playing the Raiders against Cleveland. I think Cleveland's an absolute mess. We'll do the Raiders at pick as well for 2 stars. The teaser, obviously, Jets to -1.5, Tampa Bay to +8.5 for a refuse to lose teaser. We already give out Northern Illinois on our last show right there. We got Louisville +6 for our college play. And we also took Texas Tech -2.5 for our college plays. There might be 1 or 2 more via article coming out at the end of the week. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thanks for bearing with me on vacation. This is kind of like an OddsBreakers light episode in this vacation situation. So we'll be back at full strength ourselves next week on Monday night, doing our show with Fantasy. Obviously comes out Tuesday as well as Wednesday. Our show at 1 p.m. Pacific that you would love to have you join us on YouTube for. And the podcast comes out the next way. Have a wonderful weekend. Best of luck on your plays and go get some winners.